Previously on Unscripted.
I have something big to ask you. I need you to do me a solid. Big favor.
Okay, I'm not going to buy you milk.
I've got a lot of gambling debts, about $4 million. Could you give me your bank card with the PIN, or can you send me an e-transfer?
You're listening to Unscripted with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip. So today we're going to talk about Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is an HBO show. But before we get to that, last time you remember we talked about, or I brought up those two letters that I received in the mail, and I told you how I annoyed I was about those two letters, and you laughed, and you said, and this is why I'm bringing it up again, because you said that if you received those letters, you wouldn't have even opened them, you would have just thrown them out.
So as a matter of fact, I actually did what I said I was going to do. I downloaded the Canada Post mail app where you can get the My Mail and you can see a preview of what you're going to get the next day.
Right, we did talk about that, yes.
Very, very exciting because I could see like what's coming, which is ridiculous. So actually it does tell you every mail. It's only mail that's scannable. Like it's scannable by their automated scanners. You could see who it's from. Like you said last week, if you get like a handwritten something that's not scannable, it just says like, it tells you that you have mail, but it's like, it's not readable. Like tell you, you have 6 other letters that we couldn't scan. So anyways, the first day that I sign this, I see that I have a letter from House of Commons.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting.
So that's why. So of course, I go to my mailbox and I get my letters. And sure enough, I do have something from my member of parliament. And I threw it right in the blue box. I didn't even look at it.
So thank you, because this actually just reinforces my point. Why do they need to send these letters? I actually opened it and I thought it was a waste of time. You didn't even open it, and probably half the people, if not more than half the people, did the same thing as you. So this is what I was saying. It's a waste of paper. It's a waste of postage. They don't need to do it. They shouldn't be doing it.
I would guess that in the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to go away. Like they're not going to send mail like that anymore. It's ridiculous.
The thing is, it's not like I've been getting these letters for years. It's the first time I ever got a letter like this. So
yeah, there you go.
I think it should have been abolished years ago. Anyway, enough about that.
So no. So just back to that My Mail app. It's very stressful. I get a notification every morning. Saying, this is the mail that's coming. Click here to see the preview of your mail. And then I open it up and then I see that I've got like something from like HelloFresh, House of Commons, like I told you. Like you could see the junk mail you're getting because I'm not getting any real mail, you know, like I get like one real mail a week, like a bill, you know, or something, you know, but like literally it's just previewing the junk.
So can you unsubscribe from this thing? Because you just said it's very stressful. I don't think you need to add stress to your life.
No, I probably will unsubscribe right now. I'm like in the phase where I just want to like kind of like have fun with it and just see. So like, I don't know. Maybe eventually I'll get rid of it. But for now, I'm gonna stick with it and see like if it ever benefits me. You know, like right now it hasn't really changed my life. You know?
I don't see how it could benefit you in any way. I really don't. Even if it's an important letter, like you're gonna get the letter. Even if you don't hear about it in advance, you're eventually gonna go to your mailbox and get the letter. So I don't see how it could benefit you in any way.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's no reason other than to have another app on your phone that's going to bing at you every 9 o'clock in the morning every day. It gives me a little notice.
I'm trying to have less apps on my phone and less notifications on my phone.
I think you're going down the right path.
Okay. Speaking of mail, do we have any listener mail?
Mailbag.
We do. Stephanie from Montreal. This is about our last episode on Daisy Jones and the Six.
Seems like a while ago.
Yeah, she wrote to us saying, I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but I love the show. And she says we, which I think is referring to her and her daughter, we love Billy, Sam, because he's in the Hunger Games and they love the Hunger Games. So that's why they like that actor. Derek from Montreal, love Daisy Jones and the Six, one of my favorite of the past few years. And yes, at the end, I was weeping just like George Costanza after Home Alone when the old man got to him. One other note about the music that was not mentioned, because we mentioned all the music in the show. How about the theme song that played during the opening credits, Dancing Barefoot by Patti Smith? Actually, that's a good shout because it had a good theme song, and I recognized almost immediately that it was Patti Smith, and I just didn't know the song when I watched the show. Cheryl from Montreal. Loved the show. I was so excited for the 70s vibe, the music, and especially the clothes. I was also excited to see Riley Keough perform. Apparently, she never sang before this show, and she did not disappoint. And Elvis's granddaughter, who was such a big influence on my life. Thanks for all the little details. I think Cheryl really enjoyed all your little factoids, Josh, about the show. Good research there. So thanks for all the little details. I missed quite a few, and we'll go back and watch it again. And then she goes on to say that my daughter just finished the book, so that it now is on my summer reading list. So interesting. I mean, it's always interesting to read a book after you watch a show, or watch a show after you read the book, to see what's different.
Right.
Mark from Philadelphia. He just didn't talk about Jay-Z Jones and the Six, but he liked our March Madness rerun.
Oh yeah, that was good. I liked it too.
Yeah. He said it got him in the right frame of mind to do his bracket. Then he said, and we talked about the opening of the Major League Baseball season, a few weeks ago. He has like a mini season ticket package for the Phillies games. He just goes on Sunday afternoons, like every Sunday afternoon home game.
That's smart.
So he sent me pictures from the scoreboard in the stadium. There's advanced stats now. Like when the player used to get up to the plate, it would say like batting average, home runs, RBIs, runs, pitcher, won, loss, ERA, strikeouts, like this kind of thing. So now they show you, like, for the batters, they show you OPS and WAR, which I'm aware of those stats. OPS, I think, is mainstream now. But then it also has, now you tell me if you know any of these. It also has WRC plus, WOBA, and XWOBA. That's for batters.
I've heard of all of those.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what they stand for, but I've heard of all of them.
Okay, and then for the pitchers, that has strike percentage, which, I mean, even if you don't know what it is, you could figure out what it means, right? And then they also have XWOBA for the pitchers, and then FIP. I think FIP is something about like balls in play, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, I just thought he thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting. Maybe I'm going to learn about these new stats, but who knows?
I mean, you'd have to go to a baseball game, which you can't really do in your city.
No. Well, maybe I'll catch a Jays game this year. Like I went one Jays game last year. Although the tickets should be readily available. In a matter of weeks, the Jays are going to be way in last place, right? It's not going to get any better for the Jays. I hate to disappoint the fans, but they're going to be in last place and they're going to stay in last place.
Okay, we'll be right back after this to talk about Curb Your Enthusiasm.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Are you taking a month-long vacation in the stratosphere and you know how hard it is to hold your breath? Are you the cosmic kid in full costume dress? You've got a nice little place in the podcast universe with Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is your podcast for all things Bruce Springsteen fandom. We discuss his music, we talk about his tour, and we also talk to fans of other musicians and share their story of their passion, their fandom, and the way that their favorite artist music makes them feel. Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen fan podcast, is available wherever you find podcasts. Remember, there is magic in the night.
And now, back to Unscripted.
So today we're going to talk about the TV show, and Josh, you mentioned it's an HBO show called Curb Your Enthusiasm. We are going to talk today about season 12, which is the final season of the show, and the finale that just aired this week, basically. So if you've been online, you're probably seeing a lot of farewell tributes and different things about Curb and Larry David and you know, I mean, it's a weird show in that there's 12 seasons, but there's gaps in between seasons where they didn't do anything. So it's actually been on for like 20 years, right? So it is, when they show you some of the old stuff, it's like, ancient times, it seems, So just to mention, like, this whole thing's going to be spoilers. So if you haven't watched season 12 of Curb Your Enthusiasm, or even if you haven't watched any of the others, because I'm sure we're going to reference some other old seasons, like, now's your time to, like, skip to the end if you want to hear our final thoughts, or, come back and listen to this another day. And in case you don't know, I mean, the show is about Larry David, the creator of Seinfeld, basically, and all the shenanigans and trouble and ridiculous situations that he gets in his everyday life. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
So I've got so much to talk about. I have so many notes, and I don't even know where to start. But I'm going to start with this and say that Larry gets himself into crazy predicaments. But what I'm going to say is there are many times where it's not Larry's fault. Like, he doesn't do anything wrong, and he gets into trouble, and it's not even his fault.
The thing is, there's a lot of times where he's actually right.
Correct.
About the thing that he's complaining about. But his problem is he doesn't know when to stop. He always takes it too far. And that's when he pisses people off, right? Like taking the shoes from the Holocaust Museum. Like, that's taking a golf club out of a dead person's hand in the coffin. Like, these are ridiculous things.
I'm glad you mentioned the golf club, because the golf club was his golf club. It should not have been in the coffin.
I know.
In a way, I mean, I wouldn't take something out of a coffin, but, like, it should never have been there in the first place.
It shouldn't have been. No. That's a bad that's really, like, a difficult situation he's in there. But like, maybe he didn't have to take it out at the funeral in front of everybody. But, if we want to sum up season 12 and actually sum up the entire series, Larry actually has a line in this season that I thought actually summed up the whole thing, which is, and it's not even in the final episode, it's just in one of the episodes during the season, when he says, "I did pretty well for a person who hates people and had to live among them." Like, this is what the show is about. He hates people. He doesn't want to interact with people, and he has to, because you're a person on planet Earth, right? So, I think that sums it up, really.
That is a very good summation of it. Before we get into, like, I have notes about every episode, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about all of them, because I don't want this episode to be 7 hours long. But what I'm going to say is, you mentioned how there's 12 seasons, but it's spread over 24 years, I think.
Something like this, yeah.
Anyway, the show should have ended after season 8, because the first 8 seasons were good. The last 4 seasons were just kind of ridiculous. I mean, they're all ridiculous, but the last 4 seasons were way over the top, like way too ridiculous, way too outrageous.
But I did enjoy this season, the final season. And yes, it is absurd. Like, it is absurd. But, I mean, the show is like a vanity project. Like, Larry's going to do what Larry wants to do. So he wants to make fun of the law in Atlanta about the water bottle. That's what it is. He like that's basically what it is. So, I mean, I did enjoy this season better than the last season. Like, the previous season, when they have the show Young Larry, and then there's...
Yes.
Like, that had its moments, but I also thought it was just more ridiculous, like literally more ridiculous. But no, there were some great moments in this season that I hope we'll talk about. But I don't know, do you want to go through all the episodes, or I don't know what you want to do. It's too much, or do you want to pick your best stuff? Or
I mean, yeah, I'd like to go in order of episode, and I might only say quick thing about each episode.
Absolutely.
But first of all, overarching, what I liked was, I'm pretty sure there was a huge guest star in every episode, and a different huge guest star.
There was a lot. Like, though, I mean, obviously there was Conan O'Brien, Bruce Springsteen, Lori Loughlin. This is just off the top of my head, right?
Jimmy Kimmel. So the scenes that I liked, like there's usually one scene in each episode that I really liked that stands out for me, and it usually has nothing to do with that episode.
I agree. Well, I mean, everything has something to do with it, right? It all connects. Right?
Like, do you remember in episode 1? I know it's a long time ago, because if I didn't write it down, I wouldn't have remembered. But in episode 1, he gets into his car and he's telling his car, like, call so-and-so or give me directions to this place. And the phone isn't doing what he's asking it to do. And he starts yelling and arguing with the phone. That is my favorite scene from episode 1.
That is good. I have to admit, it was funny. That was actually a really funny part, for sure.
Okay, so episode 2. So it's not my favorite thing, but I just wrote notes about each episode. Episode 2, I was happy to see Bruce Springsteen. And I didn't know, like I learned some things watching this show. Can you believe this show is actually educational? Who would have thought?
Right.
So I didn't know that you're not allowed to give people water when they're waiting in line to vote in Georgia. I didn't know this.
I mean, I think that's part of the reason why they put it, because the law is so ridiculous that actually when you watch the show, you're like, that can't be real. But then if you actually look it up, it is real, right? You just assume that they made up some nonsense, but no, that's how absurd it is, right?
So episode 3, so Richard Lewis makes an appearance. As you know, Richard Lewis recently passed away. And I'm sure you noticed that anytime Richard Lewis is in any episode or any scene, he's sitting. He's not moving. He doesn't walk around. He's always in one spot, and Larry or whoever's in the scene with him has to move around. Because there's a scene in a later episode where Richard Lewis is just sitting at a table at a restaurant. There's a scene where he wants to buy that car. He's sitting in the car. And then in episode 3, they're playing golf, but Richard Lewis is sitting in the golf cart and he never gets out of the golf cart. So clearly he was not well, and I'm surprised he was able to even be in this season.
Well, he didn't look well.
No, he didn't. No.
He looks super frail. But the thing is, I watched this season like pretty much when it came out. Like it came out every Sunday, and I watched it like a couple days later usually. So literally, like I watched that episode, and it's Richard saying like, "By the way, I put you in my will." And then they have an argument because Larry's like, "Don't put me in your will. You only want to be in my will. You only put me in your will so that I'd put you in my will." And then Richard's like, "I don't need your money," and like, which is every argument they ever had. You know, who's paying for lunch? Like the standard joke in all the seasons is that they're always trying to figure out who's going to pay for lunch. They argue about it. So I watched the episode and they're arguing about the will. And literally like less than a week later, the news is that he passed away. I'm like, holy God, this is crazy. I was like, and then I just assumed that was the last scene he was in, but he's in other episodes and he continues on. He's even in the finale, right? So, I mean, we'll miss him. He was like, Richard Lewis is obviously a big part of the show, and they don't joke. There's truth in that. Like they say they've known each other since birth. Like they were born in the same hospital. I saw interviews with them where like this is legit. They've known each other their entire lives.
So then we go to episode 4, and this is something, so Larry did something in episode 4 that he's done in many episodes. In fact, he did it in the last episode again. And you may recall, you know when Larry just stares at someone and doesn't say anything, and like he twists his head and then the other person twists their head and he's like looking straight into their face to try to determine, is that person lying, or like what's this person trying to get away with?
Yeah, it's like they're having a staring showdown, you know, or maybe not. You know?
It's very fun. I love when he does that. It's hilarious to me. So episode 5, I don't know if you remember, Vince Vaughn is at Larry's house and Larry's making a smoothie for himself. And he asks Vince Vaughn if he wants some of the smoothie or he wants his own smoothie. And then Vince Vaughn says, I've been watching you and you haven't washed your hands while you're making that smoothie. I want nothing to do with that smoothie. I thought that was great. I thought that was completely great.
I do like Vince Vaughn's character, Funkhauser, but like he wasn't in it enough. I found, you know, like he's only in it in a few episodes.
His line in that episode is, he says, "You're touching yourself like a third base coach. I don't want any of your smoothies."
So is this the episode where they play golf? Like, I guess they play golf in all the episodes. One of my favorite episodes this season, which I think is the one you're referencing, is vertical drop, horizontal tug.
You know what? It could be. I don't remember.
But like, I love that whole thing. How Larry, like, he listens to the golf lesson, he gets this tip, and then the tip has a name: vertical drop, horizontal tug, and then all of a sudden he becomes good at golf from doing this. It's really quite clever.
Another thing that happens in episode 5 that I really liked. So I don't remember where they are, but Larry says to someone, "Oh, I really like that pen," and then whoever it is says, "Take the pen," and Larry's like, "I can't take the pen." I mean, that whole scene is stolen from Seinfeld.
Well, I mean, he wrote it, so he's stealing it from himself. Right. There's other parts of this season, too, that I found stolen from Seinfeld. It starts in episode 1. He's wearing ladies' glasses. I'm like, he's wearing ladies' glasses, you know? And then, of course, I mean, we can get into the whole Seinfeld thing. The finale is literally Larry redoing the finale of Seinfeld that everybody told him he botched. And then he's like, well, you told me I botched the finale? Screw you. I'm going to do it again.
Right.
you know?
So
Yeah.
remember I said that I learned things, that this is educational. So in episode 6, I
Yeah.
find out that I didn't know this, but Larry left Seinfeld after season 7 of Seinfeld. I had no idea.
Yeah.
He
And he just came back. He only came back for the finale. That's why people were mad about the finale.
Right. I didn't know this. Like, so Jerry, I guess, was doing Seinfeld without Larry for season 8 and 9
Right.
until the last episode. Funny enough, though, Larry was still George Steinbrenner's voice.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Larry was a lot of voices in the show. Yeah.
Okay, so then episode 7, that's the one with the dream scheme. And so
I didn't
when,
like that
when
one.
Larry suggests this scheme for Jeff to try to get out of going to wherever it is his wife has to go to, I'm thinking this is such a ridiculous scheme. It's never going to work.
No, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was so dumb.
But then it works. It works, and it would have continued to work if they didn't blow their cover later on in the episode.
Right.
Okay, episode 8 is the one with Conan O'Brien, and it's also the one where he buys the cheese.
And the car. That's the car, the used car they want to
Right.
buy.
So he buys the cheese and he leaves it in Jeff's fridge.
Susie's fridge.
And when he goes back the next day to get the cheese, it's gone because Jeff's wife, Susie, ate the cheese. Like, he told you he's coming back to get the cheese. It's his cheese. How could you eat it? This is an example of Larry being right.
Yeah.
Like, he's right.
He was 100% right. He's like, "Can I leave the cheese in your fridge?" She says yes. He comes back the next day. They're like, "We ate it." And Jeff just goes along with it like, "Yeah, it was delicious." I'm like, "What the hell, guys?" You know? So then he leaves with their waffle. Like,
He leaves with the pomegranate juice, which is hilarious because he just wanted to like take something to get back at her.
Yeah.
So he leaves with the pomegranate.
This was actually really funny episode. I like the whole part where they're like, "I need your nose." Like, he needs Larry to come because he lost his sense of smell from COVID, Lewis. So like, "I need you to smell the inside of the car." I thought that was like well done and really funny. There's all really funny parts, and everything just gets more ridiculous and ridiculous, and you end up laughing out loud at all the parts.
I have more about this episode. Hold on. So this is also
This is a strong episode.
Yeah, this is also the episode with Conan O'Brien. And so it's so funny to me that he wants to say hello to Conan, but he needs clearance before he can say hello. So he asks Richard Lewis to ask Conan if it's okay if he can talk to him. And then he ends up talking to Conan before getting clearance. And Conan's like, "What are you doing? You didn't get clearance. You can't be talking to me." It's just like, it wouldn't surprise me if this kind of stuff happens in Hollywood. It would not surprise me.
Well, I think everything in the show, even if it's the most absurd thing, like getting clearance like this, it's based in some type of truth. Like maybe it's not as an extreme example, but it is there. There's some truth in there. Like, you need that does exist in some way, shape, or form. I didn't like Conan in the show. I thought it was stupid.
Right. I didn't care for Conan, but just the whole part about needing clearance to talk to him or to talk to any famous person.
Well, the really good part of that episode that you're talking about is the power of attorney. Like, to me, that was like, I loved it. Jeff's like, "I'm going to be under the anesthetic during the procedure. So there's like a 2% chance that something could go wrong. Right now, Susie is my medical power of attorney, but I want to sneakily, like, behind her back, make you my medical power of attorney." So like, I just thought it was great. And of course Susie finds out. Of course she finds out. Like, there's no way she's not going to. Susie and Jeff, the relationship of Susie and Jeff is just so freaking weird because she's so nasty. Like, she's so nasty, Susie. And he just, like, doesn't care. Like, he just wants to, like, live a day where she doesn't yell at him. Like, that's his goal in life. Please just don't let her get mad at me today. But then there's so many times where he's, like, so sweet to her, and then she's so sweet to him, and it's just weird,
There's more from that episode that I need to mention. So that's also the episode where they go and sign the papers. And then and Larry mentions to the lawyer how much he likes the pen, but this time the lawyer doesn't say take the pen.
And then of course he says to Jeff, "Can you believe you didn't give me the pen?"
And wait, possibly the best part of that episode. So Larry is having lunch. I don't even know who he's having lunch with. A woman. I forget which woman.
Okay.
And she orders dessert and she hates the dessert and she wants to give it back. And so she takes a second bite just to make sure that it's really bad.
Oh, yeah.
And then he takes a bite to make sure that it's really bad. And then they give it back. And the server takes it back. But then the manager comes to the table and says, I'm sorry, you can't give this back because you ate too much before you gave it back. And then they argue over what is the permitted amount that you can eat before returning it.
Yeah. He's like, I took a hearty bite.
I was rolling on the floor laughing during that scene.
One of the things I loved the most about Seinfeld when it was on was that they had all these little unwritten rules or rules among their friends, like this should be the rule in society, or this is the etiquette in certain situations, and what do you do here? And then, Curb just continues with that, right? Like there's many, many instances where this comes up, right? So, I mean, that's the woman that Larry ends up having sex with that the housekeeper walks in on. That's that woman.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, then we go to episode 9. So Bruce Springsteen makes another appearance in episode 9. This is the one where I guess they drink from each other's glass by accident.
Yeah. Bruce was great. Bruce was so great in this episode. He really like surprised me with his acting skills. Like he was actually pretty like funny in his own way and kind of like riffing off of Larry. Like he understood like how the dialogue with Larry's supposed to be, like and it was well done. I thought Bruce was really good. Yeah.
But here's another example. When I said earlier that Larry is often correct, he's often right. Here's another example where he was like falsely accused. So he's getting a massage and it's only 30 minutes and it's supposed to be an hour.
Yeah.
And he says to the masseuse, is that it? And she thinks that he wants a happy ending. And so then she goes and tells everybody what he did, but he didn't do anything wrong. So now he's being like shamed by everyone for something that he didn't even do.
And then it continues because actually, like, what's your theory? Who gave who COVID, by the way? Who had COVID?
You're asking me?
Yeah, what do you think? Like, I don't even know.
I don't know either.
I'm not sure. I don't know either. But I just found it interesting that, like, on the next day in the news, like, they don't know who gave each other COVID. Larry's like, maybe I gave it to Bruce. Maybe Bruce gave it to me. I don't know. But then on TV, it's like, Bruce Springsteen says Larry David gave me COVID.
Also in this episode, I find out that, and I should have known this, Larry's a big sports fan because he mentions Artemi Panarin of the Rangers, but he refers to him as the bread man. So like, unless you're like an avid hockey fan, you wouldn't know who the bread man is.
I don't know if I was watching an old episode or if it was from this season. Like he says like, don't you get emotional? And he's like, yeah, I get emotional. Was it from this season or is it an old one?
No, I think it's episode 10 because I'm going to get to that in a sec.
Yeah, he's like, I get emotional. When the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, I was crying.
Right. So that's episode 10. So in episode 10, he talks about the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup, and he compares the Yankees blowing a 3-0 lead to the Red Sox. He compares that to losing a loved one.
Exactly. Which, and now, I know it's ridiculous. And if you've lost a loved one, and you have, Josh, and so have I, right? The pain is, you can't compare it to anything. But like, if you're a diehard Yankees fan, one of these crazy Yankees fans, in that moment when they lost to the Red Sox, that was the worst moment of your life. In that moment.
For sure.
Yeah. So we're at the finale. Do you like the finale?
Well, hold on. Let me just say my favorite scenes in the finale were all the ones where Jerry's in. So Jerry, I guess he meets, well, I don't know in real life, but in the show, it's the first time that Jerry and JB Smoove meet each other.
Yeah, he meets Leon.
Yeah, he meets Leon. And Leon has never watched Seinfeld until now.
Leon's theory about Seinfeld is hysterical.
Yes.
It's hysterical. He's like, this is not a comedy. This is a sex show. This is a show about sex. Jerry has a new girlfriend every week.
And in fact, in court, they're sitting next to each other, and Leon wants to know where all the footage is of Jerry having sex with all these different girls. And Jerry plays along and says, oh, I've got hours of footage. I think I'm going to sell it to Netflix.
He says, but I can't give it to you because it's only on Laserdisc.
So those are my...
And Leon's like, oh, okay.
And then the last 5 minutes of episode 10, where you find out what happens in the trial, and then Larry goes to prison, and then Jerry comes to prison to get Larry out. The last 5 minutes I thought were great. The rest of the episode wasn't so great, but the last 5 minutes were great.
Look, I don't know when people were starting to realize what was happening, but like around episode 3 or 4, I was like, oh, he's going to redo the Seinfeld finale as the finale of this. Like you saw it coming, right? Because the court case wasn't going away and everything was leading to the court case. And then I was like, why is he doing that? And then when we actually watched the finale, it's exactly what I just told you before. Like they even mentioned it in the show because Leon is like, I heard you screwed up the finale. You know,
because
like
he just
says,
watched it
like
the day before. He binge watched the whole entire series of Seinfeld in like a week.
In Larry's life, he must hear every time like you screwed up the Seinfeld finale. So he basically is like, well, watch me do it again. Like, or in his head, he's like, we had a great idea for the finale. We just didn't do it right and everybody hated it, but I'm going to do it again because I still think it was a really good idea, you know? And I really liked all the star witnesses that they brought out, like they did in Seinfeld, you know, like when they brought out Mocha Joe, I was dying. I love Mocha Joe. I think Mocha Joe is like one of the funniest characters in the show. There's a whole season with Mocha Joe, right? Starts off with the coffee store and then he makes the spite store and then everything burns down. I think that's like really, really funny, the whole arc of the season of Mocha Joe. And I liked the finale. I thought it was well done. Like all the people they brought out and the things that Larry did, and the thing with the salad dressing with Leon's aunt was a bit silly. Like that was okay, but I didn't like how Susie came like pretending to be Larry's girlfriend, like as if nobody would notice that. You know, like a woman in a wheelchair. It was ridiculous. You know?
I like the very last scene where Jerry and Larry are walking out of the prison.
Yeah,
and one says to the other, we should have ended Seinfeld like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like where they didn't actually go to jail, where they just got out. And they did the same thing that they did in Seinfeld, because when Larry's in the jail and he's looking at his pants and there's like his pants are sticking up. It's like a tent. And he's talking to the other prisoner and he's like, what do you call that? And everything. That was in season 1, episode 1 of Curb, where he's like, look at these pants, and he's showing Cheryl, you know? So like they kind of did the same.
It's another example where Larry got in trouble, but he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, that happens to pants.
It does. That's why he doesn't wear corduroys anymore.
I mean, it happens even with other pants, not just corduroys, but yeah.
Right. So all the notes that I have, you went over most of them. I thought the finale was well done. I told you about vertical drop, horizontal tug. My favorite episode of this season was episode 4, Disgruntled.
That was a good one.
I thought it was the best. You know, are you disgruntled? I'm disgruntled with a small d, not a capital D. You know, like all this stuff. And that's the same episode of Breakfast After 11. I thought there was so many funny parts in that. And that's the same episode with the therapist, this totally inappropriate therapist that he goes to with Irma, and he's like, oh no, everything you say here is confidential. Larry, in this room, we're not friends, Larry. I'm your therapist. Everything is confidential. Literally, as soon as the session ends, you want to go out for lunch? I wanted to kill her. This is another example where Larry was 100% right. As soon as he saw her, he's like, oh, we'll get another therapist, right? Because he was doing the right thing. And she's like, no, it's fine. Like, that was the worst. Honestly, that therapist is like, I wanted to kill her. You know, it's a recurring theme, and it's come up many times in the show in the past seasons, and it came up at least a couple of times in this season. Larry thinks he's really good at naming babies. Anytime there's a baby to be named, he's like, oh, okay, let me help you. I'll come up with a name. So in this season, he was trying to name the baby, they didn't know if the last name was going to be Mantle or what was the name that...
Right.
It's like
that's another guest star, by the way. Eugene Levy's son, Daniel Levy.
Yeah, Daniel Levy. So like he wants to name the baby, and he's like Ziggy. He's giving him all these stupid names. Like, I don't know. Larry thinks he has some baby naming superpower. Okay, now I'm gonna save the best for last, but you know, in the last episode, the scenes with the stewardess is like, your phone on, is your phone on, turn off your phone and all this. Okay. I was once on a flight on Delta, and I don't fly Delta very much. That's how I know it was on Delta, because this is burned in my memory. And this is when they were really militant about putting your phone in airplane mode. Now I think most airlines don't care anymore, you know?
Not only do they not care, they they encourage you to connect to the airplane Wi-Fi.
To their
Like
Wi-Fi.
I was using my phone on my last flight. I was in midair texting you.
Exactly, me too. So, but I just remember being on this Delta flight, and they're like, "Okay, everybody put their phone in airplane mode." So then everybody does, and then they make an announcement. They're like, "There's still some people whose phones are not in airplane mode." I'm like, "How do they know?
They don't know.
Like, are they
don't
just
know.
making that up? They don't know." So I thought that whole thing was funny. Now, I don't remember what episode it was. Maybe episode 3. It's episode 3. The Leon wears the shorts that are very inappropriate, that exposes his balls.
I can't stop
And then
laughing
and
now.
Larry wears the same shorts. Now, this is something that happened between us. Now, I've always tell people, what is your podcast about? I'm like, oh, we talk about pop culture, sports, whatever. But really, it's about mine and Josh's friendship that goes back a long way, and we just reminisce about it. The friendship is the key part of the podcast. So many, many years ago, I watched this episode, and I texted you immediately. Did you watch episode 3 yet? And they're like, no, I haven't watched. I'm like, you text me the minute you finish watching, and you're going to know why I'm asking you this.
It took me about a week to get to that episode from the time you texted me.
I don't even remember the actual story. Do you know what happened with us? Like what this is?
I
don't
remember. So I was in a car with you and 2 other people.
We were on a road trip somewhere.
Yeah, I believe we were driving from Montreal to Kingston because a friend of ours was moving to Kingston for school. And so I was the driver of the car, and the person sitting next to me, whose name I won't mention,
Sean.
He was wearing shorts and it was a very hot summer day. And I don't know if it was an accident or if it was intentional, but I saw his balls. And I'm pretty sure he did it intentionally. And I was so angry, and I was driving. So what could I do? Like, I'm on the highway driving 100 kilometers an hour. Not like I can do anything about it at that moment.
I'm dying.
So I wanted to get even with this guy. So I turned to you, because you're in the car in the back seat, and I said, "That's it. Skip, show him your balls, because he deserves to see something as scary as I just saw. Shouldn't show someone something that scary while they're driving."
Oh my God, I might have to call time out. I'm dying. Because so then when we saw this episode, and it's all about like the shorts and the seeing of the balls, I was like, this is crazy. I mean, it's not the same circumstance, but it's just absolutely crazy. And then when Larry goes into Takahashi's office to try not to get kicked out of the golf club, and he just wears those shorts and he puts his leg up, I'm like, oh my God, it's exactly, oh my God, I was dying. Anyways, that's all my notes about season 12. I think we have plenty of notes there.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you rapid fire some of my other favorite episodes from past seasons.
Okay, go.
Well, Larry said his favorite episode, and I agree. It is the most well-written and maybe best episode, which is Palestinian Chicken. This is just the classic of all time. I mean, and even in current political climate, it's even crazier now. What would happen if that show aired today? Like, I don't know. That's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. There's the episode with Michael J. Fox, which is absolutely brilliant.
Right.
Like, crazy. Like, so well done. I already mentioned the Mocha Joe, Spite Store, and Latte Larry. I thought the whole season of anything with Mocha Joe I found really funny. There's the most famous episode that you mentioned once before where Larry, and they talk about it in the finale. Larry picks up a prostitute so he can drive in the carpool lane. But the main part of that is because he wanted to get to the Dodgers game.
Correct, yes.
And the thing about that episode of the Dodgers game, footage of them filming Curb Your Enthusiasm at the Dodgers game actually saved someone who was accused of murder because he was on film and that was his alibi.
Correct, yes.
Like, true story. One of the funniest episodes ever is the MAGA hat. The Make America Great Again Trump hat. I mean, that is just like classic Larry. And it's just all about like, what can I do so people won't be around me? I'll wear the most offensive hat possible. Right? Like, and it's so good. Then there's some really, really old ones. I don't know if you remember the Kung Pao shrimp, but anyways, go back and watch it. He orders Chinese food and they get the wrong order. Then he goes back and then he realizes that the order was like someone that he knew. right? Actually, the head of HBO who he was meeting the next day. So they just like swap orders. And they're like, oh, you got mine, I got yours. Okay. And they go home and he opens it and Cheryl's like, someone ate all the shrimp in the Kung Pao shrimp. There's hardly any shrimp left. Like, it's really, really funny.
I do vaguely remember that. So again, it's been a while since I've seen these episodes. So
There's another one where his psychiatrist, his therapist, tells him to get out there and start having more fun and doing things and not be so uptight. So he tells Cheryl, we're going to go to the beach. And then when they go to the beach, he sees his therapist there in a thong. So then when he tells Lewis that he saw him, Lewis is like, okay, I need a new therapist now. I can't see this guy anymore. Like, they can't go to him anymore. The Seinfeld reunion arc season is a very good season. Everyone he's trying to do the Seinfeld reunion, I thought that was really well done. And then, of course, the Fatwa. That's also another whole season where, like, the Muslim Brotherhood or whoever's after.
right.
Of course, it ends with Fatwa the musical. I mean, like, you can't even make this stuff up anymore. It's just like the things that they do is just crazy. I'm going to post a link in the show notes, Josh. There's an episode. There's an article about every episode ranked, including the new episodes.
That season with the musical Fatwa, isn't that with Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I didn't know this until like an hour ago, but before Curb Your Enthusiasm, the show, which started in 2000, there was a made-for-television Curb Your Enthusiasm movie. I think it's a 1-hour movie called Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, I didn't know.
I didn't know it. I didn't see it. Jason Alexander is in it. Larry Charles is in it. Carol Leifer is in it. Anyway, and I think it's on HBO, or at least it was. I don't know if it still is. So I now need to go back and watch that.
You mentioned all the cameos, so we mentioned some of them. There's a couple that we forgot. Sienna Miller is good,
Right.
and actually one of the other characters, maybe probably Susie, asked the same question that everybody else is thinking. Why does this super hot woman want to be with this geezer? Like, why is she attracted to you? Like, that's for sure. I just mentioned Takahashi. I do like when Takahashi's in it, and I like how he's trying to get him out of the golf club. And then I thought Lori Loughlin was so good on that episode, playing herself, obviously. And the beauty of the show is, like, she's not afraid to make fun of her situation. Like, she's accused and was convicted, or, like, of like cheating to get her daughter into school. So she's a cheater. And then it turns out in real life, according to this show, like, when she gets to the golf club, she cheats at golf. She cheated to get into the club. Everything she does is cheating, right? So, like, I just thought it was really, like, well done. This is what the show does, right? This is what they do, I mean, we can probably go on and on and on and on. So,
right.
anyways,
But we've been talking way too long already.
So I'm going to give season, the final season, a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 lessons learned.
Okay, I'm going to give this final season, season 12, 3.5 out of 5 Larry stares.
Oh, yeah, that's good. The death stare.
Yeah.
But when an iconic show does their series finale, there's always a lot of pressure and there's a lot of criticism and everybody wants it to end perfectly. I thought they ended it well. I thought it was a satisfying ending of the show.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yes, I did like the ending. Okay, we'll be right back after this with some final thoughts.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Do you know John Hyatt songs?
Maybe you know them from being covered by Roseanne Cash, Three Dog Night, the Neville Brothers, Emmylou Harris, Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Jeff Healey, Bonnie Raitt, or literally hundreds of others.
Maybe you have some of his albums on your shelf or in your cow-horned Cadillac right now.
I'm Jesse Jackson.
And I'm Sylvan Brough.
And we're going to dive in from A to Z. Join us on the Perfectly Good podcast.
We're going to discuss all of your favorites and uncover some forgotten gems, from Aces Up Your Sleeve to Zero House.
Rate and debate every John Hyatt song on the Perfectly Good podcast. Have a little faith.
Unscripted with Skip and Josh is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now, some final thoughts from the guys.
My final thought for today is I want to congratulate the University of Connecticut on winning the NCAA basketball championship. And I want to congratulate South Carolina on winning the women's bracket, which was actually, I found some of the women's stuff a little bit more exciting than the men's this year. Maybe, I guess it's the Caitlin Clark effect on the women's game, right? But,
yes, congratulations to both of them. I watched more women's college basketball this year than ever before, maybe than ever at all.
Yeah, me too.
And since you mentioned sports, you know how a few years ago we talked about rule changes that we would implement?
Yeah, we had a whole episode on new rules.
And one of the rules I said that should be implemented yesterday or 10 years ago is robot umpires.
It's starting.
Well, just last night, there was a brutal at bat in the Texas versus Houston game where
I saw it.
Angel Hernandez, who could be the worst umpire on the planet,
He's terrible.
he called out a player on strikes. I watched the entire at bat. I don't think there was one strike thrown in that entire at bat.
But it was ridiculous. I saw it and I was like, none of these are strikes.
None of them.
Like, actually, two of them are not even close. The third one that he called him out on, sometimes the square is deceiving because you can't really see it in 3D and, like this. So, like, okay, maybe, but like, no. Angel Hernandez sucks. He sucks.
You know, all these catchers now, they catch the ball and frame the pitch. And apparently there's some catchers who are better at it than others. And you see the catcher doing this, but it's so blatant. It's unreal how it's not a strike. Now, Texas ends up winning the game, so it doesn't really affect the outcome of the game. But I don't understand how this guy is allowed to continue to be an umpire.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, we can't have. I mean, we're close to the robot umps. Because
are we? I haven't heard them talking about it.
No. I'm just saying, like, because it's like it's like socialized now. It's like it's acceptable. It's almost acceptable because when you watch the game on the screen, they show you the rectangle, so it's part of the broadcast. So it's in your mind. Like when you watch a game, you're like, oh, that's out of the rectangle. That's a ball. Right? So you're only a few steps away now from the next step, which is like no person saying it and just like whatever it is what it is, which is what it should be. Just like in tennis with in or out, they have the correction. You know what I mean? Like, I think
they did. They did test the robot ump. I don't know, in the minors or in some league, and they discovered that the robot umpire is not 100% accurate. It's like, I don't know, 99% accurate or 98% accurate.
But the human umpires, they're not accurate.
That's what I'm
either.
saying. The human umpires are worse. So this would be an improvement.
Right. It would. It's just that they have fans have no one to blame, and media have no one to blame. And on Twitter, you have no one to be outraged at if it's a robot ump. Like you're going to be, oh, well, that's what it is. It says it's a strike. It's a strike.
By the way, another baseball note, since the baseball season just started a couple of weeks ago, you've heard about all these like all-star pitchers they're out for the season. They need Tommy John surgery. And I don't know if you heard that the players union is blaming the pitch clock on all these injuries.
Yeah, sure.
Which I find completely ridiculous.
It's absurd. It's absolutely, I read that and I was like, they have no idea what they're talking about. They're grasping at straws. Does the player union hate the play clock, the pitch clock? Do they hate it? Like, what's the problem here? The league actually made a rule that actually worked. It made things better. The game was better. Everybody and their mother agreed that the pitch clock was a good thing. And now they're like, nah, we don't like it.
Right. That's all I got.
All right. Great talking to you about Curb. I think we could have done a whole other hour on Curb, but
we could have.
I'm going to miss the show. Just telling everybody out there, I'm going to miss it. It was fun. And at least we have all the old episodes to go back and watch whenever we feel like. That's the beauty of television, right? Especially in this day and age with the, everything's on.
Well, you can go back and watch that 1999 movie that we haven't seen yet.
But where can you find it?
I think it's on HBO. It was on HBO at the time. So whether it's still there or not, I don't know.
Anyways, great talking to you about Curb. Talk to you next time.
Have a great week.